special. Suarez cranks it. Deep left center. Sakala! The Reds lead.
Hey, this is John Sadak, TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're up for Late Night Reds Talk.
What is going on, everybody? It is Wednesday night, and you know what that means. Another fantastic episode of, oh my God, Late Night Reds Talk live here on YouTube with you beautiful people. I am Tim Daniel. I'm in much better spirits after last week's episode, where we saw yet another meltdown. And so we're going to, I'm trying so hard. We have a lot of topics to discuss today, as a lot of shit's happened apparently. So we're gonna go ahead and introduce our panel. Of course, starting with Red Leg Nation's writer himself, Nick Kirby.
Oh, what's going on, guys?
Also joining us, former big league pitcher, as always, Mr. Carlos Guevara.
What up?
And this week joining us, you can check him out with the Red Alert podcast and with his beautiful sign that he has there today for his protest, which I appreciate. This is Mr. Stephen Offenbaker. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
Aloha. How's everybody doing? I got my sign there. Okay. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Tim, do you want to explain what that is, since a lot of people will be listening to this in podcast form and not be able to see?
So Steve started the show with a sign that said, "Sell the team, Bob." And it was on big, beautiful white poster board with big black Sharpie. So I'm sure this will be in the clip that Nick does when he promos the show for us tomorrow. You'll see it. But yes, Steve is not hiding his feelings at all whatsoever about that. And man,
beautiful handwriting. Beautiful handwriting.
You know, that really taxed my artistic ability. I want to tell you, that was about the top end of my my artistic design right there.
Yeah, well, I liked it, and it's definitely a hashtag that's picking up some momentum the past few days. So we'll definitely be on the agenda today. So Steve, you know, we talk about this week in and week out. Obviously, you're a Reds podcaster as well, so you understand the ins and outs of talking about this ball club. In your eyes, when you watch what happened, what the hell happened to this team, you know, from the end of July to where we're at now?
You know, injuries happened, I think, is a big part of what really happened. Just the difference that Jesse Winker being in this lineup and not being in this lineup made for this team is just a huge deal. But I mean, you have to, if you want to look at the big picture of this season, there's a large portion of this season where this team really got by with smoke and mirrors while they were trying to get everybody going at the same time, or trying to overcome injuries. It was just one injury right after another. And they just managed to scrap and stay around. And I think, you know, honestly, you know, their luck ran out. And I think it just ran out at the most inopportune time, being at the same time that the Cardinals, and I guess what we're calling their devil magic now, has gotten them going and gotten them into a position where they're going to get that second wild card. And it's unfortunate because this Reds team has been so much fun, and there's been so many great storylines with this team. But at the end of it, all anybody's ever going to remember is that they collapsed in September. And that's really unfortunate, and it's really unfair, but it's also the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks, like you said, like, especially with, you know, the years we got from, like you said, Jesse Winker, Nick Castellanos, Joey Votto, Jonathan India, Tyler Stevenson, Tucker Barnhart hit well. It just felt like, you know, something was finally going the way of the Reds, and we just went through all this. We're like year in and year out, we'd have these teams, like the 2014 team was super good going into the break and then fell apart. And we've seen that year, and we've seen that many a times. And it felt like this was going to be the team that finally didn't do that. It felt like coming off last year where they made that run to get into the playoffs, we might see that again. And obviously it was the polar opposite.
Yeah, it's really sad to think that all of those names you just mentioned. I mean, really, there's those of us, me included. I mean, I've never been shy about my love for Joseph Daniel Votto. I
Right.
just have never doubted that guy. And even I, on my best day, would have not predicted what he did this year. And it's just, there's so many special things that happened that I feel like, are going to end up being considered squandered this year with what's ultimately happened now. And there's a lot of blame to go around for that. And I'm sure we'll get into some of it, but it's just really unfortunate, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think, this team was projected preseason by Fangraphs to win 79 games. I think a lot of us were a little more optimistic than that. I think I said 87 preseason, split the difference. That's pretty much exactly where the Reds are probably going to end up.
Yeah.
And this team, they have a .513 winning percentage overall, but they have never played like that team all year. Like April 480, May 444, June 556, July 615, August 571, September 363. So the team was never as good as it was at its best, and they were never as bad as they are at their worst. And I mean, definitely the big gut punch was Winker. That I don't think the Reds probably would still have control of like their own destiny, but it would be really close, I think. And then I think Naquin was the last blow, really for this team. He had a great year, and he's a really good hitter against right-handed pitching. And Delino DeShields has replaced Naquin, and that's what I think is it all kind of, there's been so many things that have so many little pieces that have added up to where the Reds are, but I think that kind of probably ended the Reds' chances.
You talking about Naquin. I listened to Steve in your podcast whenever he had you on a couple of weeks ago, and you were talking about how good season Naquin's having and how he hasn't been injured. Appreciate it.
I knocked on wood, okay? And you know what? This injury was not his fault at all. Not his fault at all. It's not like he, wasn't durable. He got taken out.
Hey, Reds Nation, appreciate it. Thank you, Nick.
If anything, I brought him here.
You rowdied to them as I did.
Oh no, come on. Oh
yeah.
Poor Tyler.
Yeah. But Steve made a good point. You're talking about, this team just kind of ran out of their luck ran out. You can see their steam ran out, especially, now that Tyler Stevenson's gone to the IL and I guess is back off it, whatever that whole thing was. If you go around the horn, one position this year didn't have IL time, that was second base. Like Joey was out, the 36 shortstops were out. Third base with Moose, Winker, Castellanos, Senzel, Naquin, Shogo, and obviously Lorenzen. You can go down the list, just all these injuries these guys had. So I definitely feel like that played a part. It was definitely impressive that they were to play so well dealing with this year in and year out. I mean, a week in, a week out and kind of going through the flow. But yeah, I think so. At some point, and Carlos, you've been on pro teams, at some point, the injury bug, when it just stacks like that, just catches up, right? Just kind of bites you in the ass at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you had a bunch of different guys, picking each other up all year long. And it's just, to me, what really sticks out is those games in April and May that we lost from the bullpen. Those games matter just as much. I heard those guys talking last night on MLB Network, and they were talking about the Tigers and how well they've been doing. But they lost the season in April, and you can lose it in April. That's real. And it sucks that we didn't have, the bullpen arms that we have now at the beginning of the year, because even with this struggle, this race would have been still ours to take right now. But it is what it is, and we're fixing to be 4.5 games back.
I think this team's margin for error was small, and we mentioned it, on our day before the season started podcast. This team needed things to go right, and it's such a weird year because there's so many things that went so right and so many things that went so wrong. I'd never seen a season where you had so much of both, like Castillo for 2 months, Suarez and Moustakas, all the position player injuries. But I don't think injuries. I'm pretty optimistic. I don't think injuries can be a complete excuse because the Reds really got very fortunate with their starting pitching. Most other teams didn't have the kind of starting pitching health that the Reds had. And Jesse Winker has been hurt every single year he's been up. So that, I get it's kind of a double-edged sword because what are we talking about in April? We have too many outfielders. So it's hard to really blame them. You didn't have enough outfield depth. And we were all like, oh, where are we going to play all these guys,
Not to mention when Mike Moustakas comes back, how are you going to fit all these infielders in?
Never, ever, ever worry about having too many players. Never again. Don't do it. Yeah. I would never listen to it. You're wrong. You can't have too many.
And part of the frustration with that is when you go all the way back to the beginning, and Carlos is absolutely right. There's teams that lose the whole season in April. The Reds in 2019 are a great example of that. If you go back to the last offseason and what we were all talking about, you guys were talking about it. I was talking about it. Everybody was talking about it. This team needs a shortstop. This team needs a bullpen now. And we don't have to get into Kirby's love of Kyle Farmer and all of those things. We can blow right past that. But for the bullpen has always been in the conversation. And outside of the disappointment that Amir Garrett's season was and what we expected from him, the bullpen has been called into question since day one. And it was not addressed. It was not dealt with. It wasn't dealt with last offseason, in spring training, early on when they were really bad, when it was clear that there was going to need to be something done. Nothing was done. And the whole time, Nick Krall had his feet up on his desk right up until the trade deadline, thinking that he's got his guys and there was nothing else to be done. And I think that lack of urgency from the front office and from ownership all the way back into the last offseason really is showing itself right now. You want to know why the team is collapsing right now? They're worn out. They're tired. They're injuries. That's everybody. Nick's absolutely right. You can't just rely on that. But the few limited amount of people that could have put them into a better position to deal with the fatigue and the injuries and everything else that happens in a 162 game season, they all fell down on the job. And so, I don't necessarily blame the players or think that they collapsed, air quotes, quote unquote, because I don't feel that they have been put in the best position to win at all this season.
I see what you're saying. And I don't necessarily think you're wrong by any means. I think you make good points because, like you talk about, I'm not going to point fingers by any means, but you look at a guy like Michael Gibbons. If you look at a team that was built to win, Michael Gibbons comes in as just someone who's, and this isn't a knock on Gibbons. You can't help a guy is not more than what he is. It's just how it goes. But a team let's say the Giants, when they get Michael Gibbons is another reliever for them. You put him in their bullpen. He's there to get some outs when needed. For the Reds, he had to be big inning guy. Need to use you in big situations. That's where the bullpen was. And obviously that did work out to an extent. I think he pitched fairly well. I mean, Luis Sessa, we've talked about week in and week out, he has been fantastic. He has been awesome. But yeah, like you said, Steve, I totally agree with your point. When you're going from guys I really hope Carson Fulmer can get these outs tonight to Michael Gibbons being what had to be basically the savior of the bullpen. It just was really difficult to go with in and out. The waiver wire boys, as Carlos is putting it, just made it really, really difficult.
Yeah, I do disagree a little bit on at least the second half of the season. I'm especially now, I'm really glad the Reds didn't go blow up their farm system to get relievers. Look, Craig Kimbrell has a 5+ ERA since he's been traded. Relievers aren't guaranteed. They are. If we had to see Trent Rosecrans under, a lot of times they're very volatile. I think they did a great job addressing it at the deadline. Now it a little bit too little, too late. The thing with the Reds was they needed their bullpen and they needed their shortstop position. They needed things to go right in both ends. Shortstop, it went pretty right. Kyle Farmer did not hold the team back. overall probably close to league average, which, hey, if that's your worst player, that's a great thing. But the bullpen didn't. And I was more optimistic about the bullpen coming into the season. I thought guys like Sinal Perez had a lot of upside, and there just wasn't enough options. It's not an issue if you have one or two Sinal Perez's or Carson Fulmers in there that you think have upside. When you have 4, 5, and 6 of them, that's when it really kills. And then once the season started, you're pretty much stuck with those guys till the deadline. It's really, really hard to make moves once the season started. And I don't know how many wins that added or lost, but when you're at the end of the year and you're 4 back, every single 1 or 2 of those really add up, especially if it was one game against the Cardinals or a team you're chasing.
Just say it was at least 4 games.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm a wins above replacement guy. Iglesias has worked like 2.5. The Reds' worst guys like 1. It doesn't. Good relievers blow games too. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on that. I mean, it definitely cost the Reds. I don't know. I think playing guys. I've said this before. I think if I could have picked from beginning of the season, I would have traded for Chris Bryant at the trade deadline and dumped Iglesias at the beginning of the year. I think that equates to a better team at the end of the year, but whatever. You can't do anything about it now.
Yeah, just like being like where they're at now with like they're 4 games out. And, like going further in Carlos's point, I hate to say like to do this, but it just makes you think it's like those damn Diamondbacks games, those damn Giants games, which the Giants obviously ended up being great. But you're like, man, they like lose like 5 or 6 games to the Diamondbacks, and now they're 4 games out of the wild card race. And it's obviously not just because of that, but it's like, God, you have a couple of those, like you get a couple of those games where your bullpen like loses like 10-9. It's like, could change so many things for you at this point in the year.
That Diamondback series, you had the Josh Van Meter 3-run home run to tie the
game.
Yeah,
Amir Garrett.
Lefty. Like Josh Van Meter is one of the worst hitters in baseball against left-handed pitchers. It's a 3-run home run to tie the game. Yeah. And you had the other one who had that rain game with Sims pitching in a monsoon. The Reds had the lead. They tied it up. They lost the suspended game the next day. I mean, those 2 games, man, like, and the Reds had some other games that really went their way. They had that game against the Indians where the Reds had that ball go right through Josh Buckner Naylor's feet. Like it adds up. It all evens out a lot. But yeah, you can point to a lot of different things, and just what are you gonna do?
Yeah, pain. So kind of like move forward because I know we're going to be talking about a lot of this tonight. We'll definitely get into the Bell extension throughout the night. But I kind of wanted to touch a little bit more. Thanks for getting my rundown up again real quick. So I think we're kind of all at the point of we kind of feel like this is it, right? I know you got the Nats coming up. You got a couple more Pirates games. 4 more Pirates games now after today got rained out. So do you guys give them any chance of maybe making this run, or do you feel like it's signed, sealed, delivered?
I mean, the player in me still believes in it because the math is still there, but the diehard fan in me is like, even after tonight, like, I mean, the Cardinals loss tonight would have made us so much more happier than we are right now. But
yeah, what the hell, Brewers?
I mean, they have to do it like in the first inning, like right away. They don't even give us like to the 3rd or 4th inning before they score.
The Brewers' magic number to clinch the division was
3 for days.
And they were playing the Cardinals for 4 games, and it looks like they're about to lose 3 straight at home when they could have clinched the division against the Cardinals. And like, man, just Cardinals devil magic. It is real. It is real. I will never deny it again. I am sorry if I've ever doubted it. It's real. It's there. But is it over? I mean, last night felt like the end. I mean,
it did.
I didn't, when the Reds lost, I didn't feel like that was that was the end. When the Cardinals won, I felt like that was the end. It would have been really funny if the Reds lost and the Cardinals lost too. Everyone would be like, oh, it's still over. But no one would have thought the same way if the opposite would have happened and they still would have been the same amount of games back. But when that happened, it felt like the end. To give you some math, if anyone's interested, The odds are, I love to always equate odds to the NCAA tournament as a big college basketball fan. So the odds right now are the equivalent of a 15 seed beating a 2, or the equivalent of an 8 seed reaching the Elite 8. So, I mean, sure, it's possible. It happens once.
This is where we've come to
Wow.
in our podcast at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's like a 15 seed beating a 2.
Hey,
That's gonna actually be that's our new slogan. Late Night Reds Talk
I
Live.
love
It's
it.
like a 15 seed beating a 2.
can Giddy Potts suit up for the Reds? And probably no one understands that reference. He played for Middle Tennessee State. He was just just dude that beat me.
I covered a game he played in. I saw him play in person.
You know who Giddy is, my man.
Yes.
I love Giddy Potts. Yeah, but this isn't the show for Giddy Potts. Sorry, Giddy. We love you.
I think I agree with kind of where Carlos was coming from on that one. It's just, as long as the math says that there's a chance, then you're saying there's a chance. There's a slim window sliver of hope, but the realist in me says that it's just too great a challenge with a team that's just way too damaged at this point to really make that kind of push. Now, stranger things have happened. It's not like we're playing the Dodgers the rest of the way. So, there is some opportunity to gain some ground, but I said maybe a week ago that it was going to come down to that final Pittsburgh series, and they were going to need a sweep and they'll win 2 of 3, something like that. I think they can still get close, but I think they're going to come up just short.
If the Reds do happen to play well, I mean, I do think it'll get interesting. I think they might still be mathematically in it, into the last weekend. I think the Cardinals are going to lose at some point. I mean, how nuts is, like, I don't think they had more than an 8-game win streak since 2004. Like, those teams with Albert Pujols and like
Lance Barkman and
I mean, you can't feel sorry for the Reds. The Reds did this to themselves.
Right.
The Padres should have passed them, or the Phillies, not this team with 50-year-old Adam Wainwright and 60-year-old John Lester and a 130-year-old J.A. Happ. Like, my goodness.
You're like
baseball,
leaning
man.
You're leaning on Mikolas to be like huge for them, and it's like
that rotation. How
they trade John Gant and they get better because he was so lucky for them. The whole every time he pitched a game, he was so lucky.
Yeah,
and they trade him. It's like, now we're winning all the time. It's like, son of a bitch.
It's just everybody's scared to beat Yachty. That's the real answer.
But the Cardinals might have done the Reds a favor by signing Yachty back, because that's another year of him being.
Unless he's the keeper of the Cardinals double.
I don't know, man.
He might be the keeper.
He might be.
There's something to Yachty being in that clubhouse and those guys. Like, I love it whenever he's got like a young starting pitcher and he throws like 3 straight balls and he's like you can see him cussing at him, figure this shit out. And throws it back. The pitcher scared as shit. He gets back on there and throws the strike, no matter where it is, but it's gonna be a strike. Those kind of things. I don't know. I pick up on those as a pitcher just watching, and you can tell those Venezuelan and Dominicans, they'll let you know, those catchers, they don't give a damn who you are, where you came from. But if you start BSing and throwing balls and missing your target by 12 inches, you're gonna get a stare, or you're gonna get a ball thrown back at you 90 miles an hour. Figure it out. And Yachty does that, and I love that about him.
It's almost like that look your parents would give you is don't make me come out there.
Yeah,
don't make me come out there.
And you're like, oh shit.
Maybe Sino Perez and him can work together at Driveline this offseason.
That'd be
Too soon.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Oh my
Either
goodness.
that, or we need to get Tyler Stevenson to get a nice neck tattoo and he'll be that guy next year.
I don't know if that would be Tyler's look. I'm a big Tyler guy. I don't know if he can pull that off.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if the Cardinals were going to bring in Felix Hernandez, because he also has a neck tattoo and he was also way past his prime. I was wondering if he was going to end up there at some point. I'm glad he didn't.
Well, at Great American Ballpark.
Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorite pitchers, so I'm so glad I didn't have to root against him. So
yeah,
I'm convinced
happy
Chris
about that.
Carpenter is going to come out of retirement and pitch the wild card game for them.
Well, it's like, you remember last week, I was like, it didn't happen, thank God. But I was like, Albert Pujols, probably his last trip ever to GABP. I was like, he's going to do something. And thankfully, he didn't really do much.
It's
So
going to be St. Louis versus the White Sox in the World Series. Tony La Russa is going to win either way. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah. I guess the White Sox might, if the Reds don't make it, they might be the team actually root for to win it all, except for the fact that it's La Russa. That's the one thing I don't like about it. And it's so funny because my buddies are White Sox fans, and they're like, I love our team. We have fun dudes. We've got Lou Bob. We've got Tim Anderson. They're like, I hate Tony La Russa. Hate him.
But yeah, I think everybody does. Like, their team definitely does. The fans definitely hate him. Like, I think we're all like, we can go for the White Sox because nobody likes Tony La Russa, not even his own team. So
maybe they've got some devil magic too. I mean, the Cleveland's in second. They're 2 games under 500. Like, what is going on, man? With the Cardinals and La Russa?
In the playoffs, Billy Hamilton is going to have his Billy Bates moment. He is 100% going to. Steve's like, I know exactly what you're referencing. Oh, man. God. So let's kind of talk about the news today, folks. If you're a Reds fan, and you've probably tweeted about this, good or bad, given your opinion, but David Bell has been announced his 2-year. He announced his 2-year extension, not the club, not like any media members. He walked into his presser after the game was postponed and was like, by the way, I signed back. He also said in his conversation that he expects that we will be having his coaching staff back, so Derek Johnson does still stay with the Reds. Again, I don't know why people are really mad about that part. I'm all for it. So curious as his thoughts. I know, we've been pretty supportive of David Bell. I don't think he's been perfect, but I think with the hand he was dealt, he's done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they're projected to win 79 games. They're at 78 with 10 left. You're putting anything on him, other than, maybe some decisions here and there. I think that's pretty misguided, The timing of this was really weird.
That was weird.
I mean, ultimately, the decision's what I wanted. I definitely wanted Derek Johnson back. I do not think David Bell has had a good last month. Been a lot of really bizarre things. Again, there's always things we don't know, so I try as much as possible to reserve judgment. Like, I looked stupid on Monday when I was like, why isn't he playing Stevenson against a lefty and he's put on the IL, So there's always things we don't know. Generally, I think most of his decisions come from well thought out, well prepared, well researched. They're not just gut instincts, which is the last thing I want out of a Reds manager. And you can probably guess who would manage with their guts that I wouldn't want to be the Reds manager. So yeah, I'm thrilled he's back. I think that's a good sign overall for hopefully the Reds' approach to 2022. It wouldn't seem, I don't want to, put anything definite out there. Wouldn't seem that you bring David Bell back if you're looking to completely, make big, massive trades and blow the team up or anything like that. Not that I didn't really think that was going to happen, but I think that's kind of some people's worst fears and nightmares that have come out. But I think it's a good sign for what the Reds, hopeful plans are. They're not going to do as much as everyone wants to prepare for 2022, but I think it's a good sign overall what at least the thought process is going to be for the Reds, hopefully trying to, compete, better in 2022.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, first off, I need to get some of Nick's optimistic Kool-Aid or whatever it is he's got going, because
it's contagious.
I want to absorb some of that, because I'll tell you what, I'm glad that they extended Bell, and I do think it's very, very peculiar how this all played out today, with there being no press conference or even a press release from the team. It's just David saying, hey, by the way, the reason above all that I like the signing is I have zero faith in this front office. I have zero faith in this ownership group, and I have absolutely no faith in their ability to conduct the next managerial search and not screw it up royally. With this coming on the heels of the stuff that happened with Kyle Bodie and Gilly last week, I just I'm glad that they're at least keeping David Bell in place. Now, the fact that he said that his coaching staff is going to be back actually surprised me a little bit, because with those changes last week, I was having a hard time seeing how Derek Johnson would be comfortable hanging around if they're going to go a new direction in player development, because the old direction, he played a large part in formulating. That wasn't just something he dropped into. He had a very active role in determining that player development from top to bottom in the minor leagues amongst the pitchers. So it's really surprising to me that it was framed that the coaching staff's going to be back. Now, I guess maybe I'll stick a little, I'll believe it when I see it on there, that that's actually what happens. But if it does happen, then that's just better for the Reds. I don't know if I agree completely with Nick that this means that it's not going to be as bad as we have imagined in the offseason, because, remember, they tried to move Castillo last offseason. They tried to move Gray last offseason. And there's nothing that says they're not going to try and do that again. I think they're going to use the statement of Green and Lodolo are coming. We have to make room. We can cut money here and spend money there, but we all see how that works out a lot. And so when we're talking about the front office and what they're going to do, I don't have a lot of faith or hope that they're going to deliver on anything. But as far as Bell goes, he deserves the extension. He should get some votes for manager of the year. He has kept this team plugging along through stretches that it shouldn't have been plugging along. And I'm glad to see him back.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it all year long. We're supporters of David Bell here. I agree with Nick. We've had conversations via text on, some managerial decisions here in September, bullpen, whether it's a lineup, and it's not like we're doing it after the fact, after something's happened. It's before it's happened or as it's happening. So kind of puzzling. And you could even hear last night, whenever they brought in Wilson, nobody wanted to answer the question of, John asked Sam, and Sam was like, Barry? Because they were like, why is he coming in the game whenever Santillan's thrown 12 pitches and struck out 7 guys? What's going on? But, that was just one small example. But, I mean, I'm glad he's back. I know for a fact that, his team really respects him. He makes tough decisions. Benching a future Hall of Famer is not an easy thing to do. Basically, benching Suarez and Moose at the same time while they're still active, that takes a lot. To keep Kyle Farmer there, that takes a lot. He's got a set on him, and he'll stick to it. And you can see in that that Sports Illustrated, that article that came out today about Joey coming to his room and Joey begging for him not to take him out of the lineup, and Joey was pissed, but he's stuck to it. And here we are at Joey's 33 homers deep or whatever he is right now. And, part of that is to David Bell. I was kind of one of the guys saying, Joey's turnaround had nothing to do with David Bell, and that benching. And I was wrong, having conversations with Joey. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it totally changed my total mindset on what I was doing. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start getting benched. Let's make a change. I'm going to go down swinging. And that's what he's doing. And so, decisions like that is what really makes you respect the manager. And if the players do, then we shouldn't worry about it. I don't really think this is much of a topic. The timing of it is really odd, and it was planned out. There's no way that they said, we're going to, let Bodie go, and then we're not going to ease it over with signing Bell to an extension. That was thought out, because that would probably be, one of the lead topics of our conversation tonight is what they did with Bodie. But now, we shifted over. Well, at least Bell's back, and that's kind of hiding some of the pain right there.
Yeah, I think Bodie and Gilly both being leaving is definitely surprising. I will say that as much as I hate that Bodie's not in the organization anymore, I've loved how much more he's shared with us on Twitter since he's left the organization, and what they worked on and who he pushed and who bought into his ideas and stuff. I've really enjoyed that, and seeing that just as someone who just loves sports information, I've dug it.
Yeah.
Do I wish he was still working for the Reds? Yes, but
what's funny was my first thought was whenever he started going back on Twitter was It's going to be hilarious because a lot of these Reds minor leaguers and even big leaguers are going to go to him in the offseason. They're going to work with him.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna one more thing on Bell before we move too far into Bodie and how much to go into that discussion. But I think everyone wants a lot of people want a football coach in baseball, and that doesn't work. You don't need a rah guy in a 162 game season. And I think generally David Bell's approach is the best approach for a manager. And it's fine. I know, and everyone's going to agree with that. That's my take on it. But as Carlos said, the players respect him even more so. I think, Joey Votto respects him, which I don't think that's an easy thing to earn.
Right.
And I think they genuinely want to play hard for him, and they genuinely care about him. And, I think that's the kind of approach you really need over a 162, even sometimes more than the individual tiny little moves that really don't move the needle, one way or the other. And Steve, I'm going to give you a little Kool-Aid here. It's some real Kool-Aid. So, maybe one positive. Derek Johnson we're assuming Derek Johnson is coming back. We're taking what was said at face value. So if that comes back, don't say Nick, I'm just taking what was said. Derek Johnson, I'm assuming, knows what went on there, right? And
Right.
He came back. So I take that for what it is. I want to wait and see how all this is going to play out. And, but before really cast full judgment, one way or the other. The one thing I do know is there's not one way to develop pitchers. I think Bodie's results speak for themselves. They've worked really well. But the Brewers have also done pretty well, and they use a totally different method. So, there isn't one way to go about this. And I'm interested to see. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting offseason.
Yeah, I agree. And don't get me wrong. The fact that it sounds like Derek Johnson's coming back, I'm thrilled with that. I really want to keep this coaching staff intact because I think that they are, impacting the team in a positive way. And, it's good to hear, some of the insight that Carlos brings about how the players feel about David Bell and how they feel about these guys around. And, obviously they say things in interviews, but, what you get in interviews and what you get behind the scenes can sometimes be two very different things. So it's really good to hear that, those things match up. As far as this offseason goes, and this is going to be one of the most wild off seasons I think that we've seen in baseball in a long time, between just what this front office is going to have to deal with, plus what Major League Baseball as a whole is going to have to deal with the CBA. I mean, it could be Armageddon by the time this whole thing's over. I mean, I really have no idea what we're going to get.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about the CBA.
Yeah, last thing we
tough.
need. And one more thing. So like David Bell coming back. Look, David Bell, as much as we love him, he's probably not going to go get another job tomorrow if the Reds didn't re-sign him. That's just the nature of managers. If there's not a lot of second lives for managers that didn't have any experience that come up and but that's not the case with Derek Johnson. He would get picked up tomorrow by a handful of teams. A lot of teams there'd be teams that would fire their current pitching coach to hire Derek Johnson. So him coming back, that at least you can breathe a little bit. Okay, there's something. There's some good mojo here, and I'm gonna ride that.
Yeah, I like it. I guess we'll touch on it real quick. I don't think we have to deep dive by any means. Well, we already mentioned it. Bodie and Gilly both now being out of the organization, and I know a lot of people are freaking out about that because of the success we've seen from a lot of these minor league pitchers and these guys who have really bought into his, I guess, quote unquote methods. And Carlos made the point of like, these guys are already comfortable with him. So come the off season when they're like throwing in winter ball or their winter camps, whatever they're doing, they're getting ready for the season. He's probably going to be around those guys. And I think that's still going to pay dividends. We have seen this, we've seen a lot of these numbers for these minor league pitchers. We've been really impressed. the kid that got called up today, forgive me, excuse my ignorance, I should remember his name, it just slipped my mind, but like was like having a phenomenal year between AA and AAA. Durrell,
Morita.
yeah, thank you, Steve. He's had a phenomenal year between AA and AAA, and I think you've seen a lot of these guys have that kind of year. So yeah, I'm with Carlos. Like, I know a lot of people are freaking out about it because it just seems like it's doomsday. And I know Nick Kroll in his presser today said they're not moving away from data decisions, whatever that means. We don't really know, but I know it's definitely a hot button. People are like, talking about on the Reds Twitter it's what the Reds subreddit right now.
Please never listen to a word that Nick Kroll or David Bell say in an interview, because everything they say is completely pointless. And it goes for pretty much most general managers and managers. Nick Kroll maybe a little more. That is not his strength. I hope his strengths are really, really good other places. Just don't listen to a word they say. It's pointless. They're, a lot of times they're saying things that they don't want to give out information, and it's for good reason. Sometimes it's just, bad communication, but just don't listen to it. It do yourself a favor. Just tune it out. Don't listen to it.
I like it. Anyone else want to comment before we move to the next topics?
Nah.
I do have a question for Carlos on Bodie as our resident expert. Something I saw a lot speculated on, and I have no idea. Do you think there could have been a disconnect between some of the Reds' top arms, Lodolo and Green, and their development, maybe pushing them too hard or not hard enough, and something like that could have been a major reason for this?
No, not with the success that the entire farm system has had. If it's some of the top guys that don't want to do that, they're not going to do it. They're not going to make them do it. If they're a first rounder, second rounder, if you're Green or Lodolo, do whatever you want. We're gonna suggest stuff that if you say no, I'm not gonna do that, guess what? You're still gonna get moved up. You're still gonna be given all the chances in the world. So those guys don't really have a say. It's kind of what they do with everybody else. That's what makes it so puzzling, because everybody else has been really successful and the numbers speak for themselves. That's why, yeah, I mean, the top prospects, if they would have gotten injured, both of them, because of the training that, Bodie does, then yes, then he would have been gone with just those two guys getting hurt. But as far as them not wanting to do something, no way. They do whatever they want.
Interesting. It's a little easier to be more aggressive with your 10th round pick and their plan than your first and second round pick. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think
it was whenever Homer, whenever he came to Chattanooga and we were there, they didn't mess with him. Like, Homer was throwing his bullpen. The bullpen coach was there just like clicking the counter, taking a little note. And even whenever Mac Jenkins would come in, he'd be like, "Oh, nice. Looking real sharp, looking sexy. Ooh, got some pop on it." Like, no instruction at all. And it's like, what are y'all doing? And like, they're spending their time like talking to like, mid to low tier prospects, and helping them out and trying to make adjustments with them. But with the head guys, they don't want to mess with them because that will cost them their job. If they give them one bit of, hey, maybe try this slider a little tighter, and they snap that arm, your ass is gone real quick.
That's awesome. I love that perspective. That's really,
the insight's great.
Yeah.
I think another element of this, and the reason that people are I don't know if freaking out's the right term, but really paying attention to what happened this week. Number one is it's fairly high profile in it being Kyle Bodie and Driveline and all of those connections and the MVP machine hype that came along with some of what's gone on. And the other part of it, I think, is that, you're talking about an organization that really has not had a lot of successes in the last 2 decades. There's not a lot to point at and hang your hat on. And here we had a moment where there was some real, a real bright spot. There was some real hope. There was a place that you can point and you see, look at the difference that's being made. And that's going to pay dividends on the major league field in 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, because we're now developing these guys that are going to come up and be productive major leaguers. And then to just all of a sudden blow that up, and whatever the reasoning is behind that, and whatever the front office is not telling us, in the absence of them providing information, people are going to fill the gaps in themselves. And whether they're filling it in with realistic scenarios or creating drama in their head, whatever it is, it's still very puzzling for an organization that has not had success. And I think that, if you had been in the postseason for the last 4 years, or you'd won a World Series, that people wouldn't be reacting the way that they are. It would just be an organization making a tweak, trying to do something different. But in this case, without a lot of positivity to point at, it's extra concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I do. Yeah, I know too, the big thing here, I guess now. So with Nick Krall's Zoom presser he did today, they asked about the status of his contract, and he said that more or less just said he wasn't discussing it. So like Nick, like you said earlier, Nick, like just take everything with a grain of salt with what they're saying. And I don't know.
It's going to be a really interesting offseason, for Nick Krall. I'm rooting for the guy. I hope he does well.
Of course.
It's been an interesting year for him because I feel like everyone really turned on him really quick. Going into the year, it was, Nick Krall, his hands are tied. None of this is his fault. And then the Reds don't play well and it's all his fault. And I'm not saying he's goes without any blame, because I think there's definitely things that he could have done differently. The fact that not necessarily that they didn't get Adames, but there was a report that they weren't even interested. That was probably the most concerning thing I heard all year, was that they weren't even trying. I don't necessarily think the teams matched up well because the Rays were looking for pitching, but the fact that there was no discussion at that time, that was concerning. But this is an interesting offseason for him. And, the Reds have a very, and this will be something we discuss all offseason, so I don't want to, dive in too far, but Reds have a lot of really, really good pieces, but they have a lot of pieces that don't fit. And how do you make it work? Reds have 50,000 third basemen and not a true center fielder. The Reds, something that hasn't been discussed enough is how bad the Reds defense has been all year. And that has really hurt the team. And Cardinals devil magic aside, they are the best defensive team in baseball. And that adds up a lot over 162. You don't see it as much every night, but it adds up. And I think that's an area I'd really like to see the Reds improve in, is finding guys that can, do a little bit of both. You're going to have your Jesse Winkers of the world that are just there to mash and you accept the defense, but you can't have 4 and 5 of those. And that's, how is he going to make all these pieces fit? Because Reds have so much talent, man. They have a loaded roster going into 2022. It's how do you maximize that and fit guys and move guys and get better upgrades that fit your team better.
Yeah, I know. I've already seen 45 things of like, why don't they just trade for Keto Marte? And it's like, can we get to the end of the season first? Like,
I'm on the Chris Taylor free agent train. That's my new one. Let's go.
Well, it's like, what was it like? So like when we started the show, it was like the second or third week of the season. And like someone I'd seen, like Nick, like an old tweet he sent me in like 2016, where he was like, I really think the Reds should trade for Tyler Naquin and get him from Cleveland. So sure enough, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
let's focus on that, and not that I said the Cardinals weren't a threat this year. Let's focus completely on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so kind of talk about the few guys as far as like what the season's kind of gone through. We've obviously seen the Suarez resurgence. We talked about it last week with Ryan. Just kind of seeing him jump up and kind of make some moves and kind of like finding a little bit of confidence here at the end of the year. kind of similar, not to the extreme measure by any means, not comparing it, but it's similar to what Joey kind of found last year after he had that few day benching that was discussed earlier. Does that kind of give you guys a little bit more confidence going into what moving forward with him, or what do you think? Like, are you counting on, maybe not another Mark Reynolds season like I joked last week, but maybe some more, maybe seeing a little bit of that Eugenio Suarez swagger come back?
Can't be worse.
No, it can't be worse.
Just one of Moose and Suarez have a good offseason and come back next year and fill third base and play well. Just one of you, please. Or both of you, one of you figure out how to mash lefties, the other one figure out how to mash righties, and we'll have a really expensive third base platoon. But if it produces, so be it. And I wonder if, I wonder if one of those guys gets moved. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless it just fits right. And, maybe it's a move where you cut some salary and you're able to reallocate it. Maybe not. I don't think it'll be like a face value move, but there might be some creative ways, and that's where Nick Kral's really got to earn his stripes this offseason.
The fan in me, down in my heart for this team, I want Eugenio Suarez to just come roaring back and be that guy. I still, have these nagging doubts in my head if there's something going on with him that we just don't know, that shoulder was more wrecked than anybody ever really let on. If that's contributed from the pool injury to now, he's been a completely different player. And there's just deep down me hoping that he comes back and can be close to what he was before he hurt that shoulder. As far as Moustakas goes, I can't come up with a scenario where the Reds are able to move him between his contract and his age and his performance. Even if they're willing to eat some of the salary, I can't see it. I can't see them finding a match for that. So, as far as those two specifically go, I agree with you, Nick. We just have to hope that one or both of them figure out to become a really expensive platoon scenario, or that Gino comes roaring back, because that's really what I want to happen. I really just want him out there with that smile and that swagger, mashing 40 bombs. That would make me very happy.
Yeah, me too. Oh man, Gino mashing is the best form of the Reds.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
I
it
love
is.
me some Joey, but when Gino's hot, usually somebody else is going to, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Hopefully he comes back. Like, the whole shoulder thing is so puzzling because, even Barry Larkin has some he's going to know if somebody's injured, and he's brought it up several times throughout the year about that shoulder, how he's saying he wonders how it's bothering him. But, I see like some of the hacks that he takes sometimes, and I'm like, there's not even a grimace. There's not even a slight grimace. So it's so puzzling. I don't know. Like, I have no idea, no insight on that. I wouldn't ask for it, but it's so odd, how that injury happened. And then all of a sudden it's just a uphill battle. But hopefully this September is the spark that he needs and the confidence that he needs going into the off season. And we'll see. Hopefully we'll see you next April instead of some sort of delay in the season.
I know.
CBA, baby.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Will we have a season? That's step one. Yeah.
I'm sure. I bet you the players are going to be like, we can't take another half a season check. Yes, okay. They're going to lay down like the NFL players. But yeah, whatever. You can have it. I need that full check.
Like with
25 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah.
2012 when the NBA had their lockout, like it was like boring, but it was also kind of awesome because all those guys were like doing like pay-per-view like pickup games where like LeBron and like Durant were playing together. Like, it was kind of fun. But I never want to go through that ever again. You can't really have pickup baseball games.
Yeah, but we had COVID and we had enough of those fun little things to last a lifetime.
People were betting on like video games. I was like, what world do we live in now?
No, never again, please.
Yeah. Hell, Steve, you're here. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about some Joey stuff. So obviously, the Sports Illustrated article comes out today talking about why he's still playing, and I thought it was awesome. It was a really good article, and I want to actually talk to you guys about this week before the article even came out today. Obviously, hit one again the other night, as Carlos pointed out. Gave us 2 the other night. You're right, Nick. Thank you. Just gave a shout out to Omar from The Wire. Rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. That was so dope. It's definitely my next show on my watch list. My wife's pushing for The Sopranos, but I'm going with The Wire. And then, we're at 33 now. He's 4 away from his career high. And I think the biggest thing people are looking at now, as he just turned 38 and noticing he still has 2 full seasons left on this contract, he is 61 home runs behind Johnny Bench. Can he do it?
I think he can. I think he can do it. But here's the thing, and I tweeted about this either today or yesterday with Jason Linden, because if ever there's a person that will keep you informed on Joey Votto, it's Jason Linden, and he was talking about that very thing. And I tweeted back, I think he can do it, but there's a part of me that's getting louder, a thought process in my head that is, it wouldn't hurt my feelings at this point if Joey found a way to go someplace else and win. And that's sad for me, because, it has been a rare treat to watch a player like Votto play his entire career in Cincinnati and do the things that he's done. And we may not see that again a long time or ever. But if there's a guy playing right now that deserves an opportunity to go win, it's Joey Votto. And I know that he said publicly that, he may not necessarily be interested in that, but the guy deserves it. And if this Reds team's not going to give it to him, I want him to go somewhere where he can get it. That's just kind of where I am saying. But if I have never, ever doubted Joey Votto. And can he pass Johnny Bench? Absolutely, he can pass Johnny Bench. If he's here for those 2 years, he can pass Johnny Bench.
Yeah. And so what I'm about to say is no direct quotes. It's none of that. It's just, knowing him, talking with him, just close conversations. And what I feel like I know a lot of the way that he thinks. So those, 61 home runs, what did you say? 61?
61 behind, yeah.
Like, now that he wants to just hit homers, that's in his mind. So he'll never publicly say it. He'll probably never even say it to me, but he's going to go after that number. And if he's healthy, I think he's going to get it. And I don't think Joey would want to go anywhere else, even if it meant a good opportunity to win a World Series, because it means so much to him. Whenever he talks about the city and what he wants to bring to them, it's genuine. It's not like, hey, yeah, of course I'm going to say I want to be with this team for the rest of my contract, the rest of my season. It's genuine. He loves it there. He grew up there. He became a man there. He's coming to the end of his career. Like, he owes everything to the town, and he wants to do nothing but bring a title back there. And my thing is, I'm thinking 3 years from now, when he's got that option, whenever he's playing pretty well, and is the front office going to be like, no, we don't want to pay someone, whatever they have to pay him, X amount of money, and he wants to come back, I'm like, oh shit, now what? Like, because I don't think Joey's going to stop playing in 2 years after this year. Like, it's a different breed of athletes now. You see Tom Brady and you see all these other guys, like, he looks pretty damn good for being 38 years old.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look like he's only has 2 years left. Like, he doesn't look anything like Miguel Cabrera. He doesn't look anything like Albert Pujols. And this guy, you can see it in his physical stature. He dedicates his entire life. Everything that he does revolves around the game of baseball, and he wants to continue his career. And hopefully it's with the Reds all the way through.
Yeah, this is the guy that roots for the Toronto Raptors, who, when they won the title, got Kawhi Leonard, and he still said he didn't think Kawhi Leonard should have left the Spurs, even though he won a title for his favorite team. And
to Carlos's point, and I believe, the things I've heard Joey say about not wanting to leave the city, I believe those things. I don't think that that's just lip service. I believe those things. But the fan in me that has enjoyed so much of his career and seeing what he's brought to the team and to the city. And when I say to the city, we're talking about the youth sports, the things that he does, the stuff he does behind the scenes and tries not to take credit for, all of those things. He's brought so much, the fan in me, the person in me would just love for him to get a ring, and however that has to happen. And, I want him to be here too, but I really want him to get a ring.
Yeah. If he got a ring, say with whatever, the Blue Jays, it would not mean half of much of what it meant to be to win one with the Reds. Not even a little bit. He'd be like, yeah, it was cool, but God, I bet it'd be better. Imagine if it was with the Reds. Like, it would. I don't even want to think about that. Bah.
Nick's got this look on his face like he's about to drop something on us.
Well, I do have a stat, but first off, the Reds are going to be really, really damn good the next 2 years. So they've got really good starting pitching. They've got Jonathan India. They've got Tyler Stevenson. They've got Hunter Green. They've got Nick Lodolo. This is the place for Joey Votto. This is the place he's going to win a ring one of the next 2 years.
Back-to-back Rookie of the Years next year. Barrero, is he going to qualify as a rookie next year?
Still technically, yes, still under 130 at bats.
David Bell wouldn't play him.
Back-to-back Rookie of the Years, baby.
No, I do have a stat, something I've been tracking that I found interesting. I had a hard time finding it for whatever reason. Votto is 10 behind Johnny Bench for the most extra base hits, 84 behind Pete Rose, and I think he's definitely gonna break that.
I do too.
That is going to be satisfying as hell for me when that happens. And I will be in.
How many extra base hits does he have this year, Joey?
Oh, for some reason they don't make this very easily available.
No,
it's
get
not
so
on,
annoyed with that.
It's not on Baseball Reference on their.
But don't worry about it.
Go ahead, Tim. I'll get it.
Yeah, while Nick's looking that up, a couple more things here. So, obviously, now looking like we're looking at a situation where Moose, Winker are out for the season. So that kind of sucks. Kind of looking forward, but Wade Miley's had a pretty brutal month. Is that something where you guys kind of show some more concern? Do you feel like he's going to kind of get back in the shape for next season? Because he'll be a Red next year. Like, his contract stays unless they trade him. He'll be a member of the Reds organization.
57.
They have to trade him?
Really? That's not an option?
What do you mean?
I thought he had a $10 million. You're talking about Miley, right?
Does he have an option?
I think he's a $10 million. I think it's a $10 million option. Is that?
Yeah, he's got
not correct.
He has a $10 million option, and the Reds are going to pick that. Reds are going to pick that up because Charlie Morton just signed a 1-year, $20 million deal. So even if for some reason the Reds don't feel like paying that, someone else will. I wouldn't be too worried about. I would be very worried about his September stats for the rest of 2021. If you're, still hopeful for this season, his career September stats are not good. He has a pretty bad trend in September, but he's bounced back from that other years. I just think for whatever reason, either teams have seen him enough, he gets fatigued, whatever, probably a million reasons, but I think it's just more of just, he doesn't last as long during the season. But
6-man rotation next year, baby.
Well, and he's a guy, we mentioned this before. He's a guy that I think would really, really fit that like Lorenzen hybrid when they kind of did that with him, where, if you have 5 healthy starters, which that's an a lot of years, even with all the guys the Reds have, it feels like they have a lot. Remember the outfield situation. It's never as many as we think. Miley be a great guy to have. All right, pencil him in the rotation. If Green, Lodolo, Gutierrez, everyone's ready, everyone's hitting, we move him to the bullpen. You can't have too many good lefties in the bullpen that could pitch multiple innings, and he could kind of, I think, bounce back and forth. Maybe that helps preserve him. He's done it before. He did it last year and it was pretty successful. So I think he'd be really, really good in that role. And he doesn't need like as much time to warm up and everything as everyone else. I think he can roll out of bed and pitch. I just feel like he'd be really, really good in that role.
Yeah, he's He's older, so you got to save the bullets. He can only throw so many in the bullpen before he goes out there now. So,
Nick, you're the guy that usually comes up with really creative pitching solutions. One of the things I thought about this rotation, for next year, and obviously we're still this year, but just on this thought process with Miley, I would love to see them use him, almost like a sixth starter, but maybe not quite, with those young arms in the rotation for the first time in their first major league season. Maybe use Miley to skip them every so often. So rather than having Miley pitch out of the bullpen, this week you're skipping Lodolo. Next week you're skipping Hunter Green. The third week you slot him in as a sixth starter. So he's still pitching pretty much in a rotation, but you're giving everybody a little bit of rest, because what I see with Miley over his last few full seasons is he just runs out of gas in September. He's not a young man anymore, and he gets in there, he deals quickly. And I think by September, he's just worn out a little bit. So I would love to see somebody get creative in a way that you can maximize what all of those guys bring to the table. And I think that would be a great way, if you're going to keep Miley around, to really maximize what he brings.
I love something.
I love that. Yeah.
Love something like that. I don't think the Reds have as many quality starting pitchers as everyone thinks right now. If they have seven guys right now. Is that, am I counting everyone right? 7 guys that we would be considering. Gutierrez, Green, Lodolo, and then the 4. So number 1, Gutierrez, the plan for Gutierrez should be to start the year in AAA. That's a great problem. If he's able to start the year in AAA because no one gets hurt, that's a great thing. Look at who the Dodgers have starting in AAA. Like, they have well above average major league starters starting in AAA. And I don't think Vladimir Gutierrez is necessarily an above average starter. He's got upside. He's great, whatever. But plan should be, if everyone's healthy, he starts in AAA. Then you're down to 6 guys. How many years do the Reds break camp with all 5 of their projected starters healthy? Never. It never happens. Every year someone gets hurt. So again, I don't think it's that many. I don't think it's an issue. Sure, shop guys. If someone offers you the moon for Tyler Mahle, he's got 2 years left, say, great, this helps us. That's great. Someone offers the moon for Luis Castillo. That's great. Someone offers the moon for Sonny Gray. He's only got 1 year left. That's great. If not, roll with it. Have that be a not just a strength, but a big strength. And I think that goes a long way to help your team, and you don't run out of depth, because the Reds got really lucky this year with it. Not a guarantee next year, especially as Steve pointed out, with 2 guys that are going to be, we're planning on being in the rotation that have never pitched in the big leagues.
How about Mahle on the road, Miley at home?
Mahle is going to figure out how to pitch at home. He's going to figure out how to pitch at home.
Yeah, he'll only throw 20 pitches in an inning instead of 29 at that point.
Oh, gosh. My goodness. You guys hating on someone who's been so good at such a...
I know.
I was just making a joke, Nick. Relax. Everybody else laughing but you.
Right.
God, respect the man.
Yeah.
Reds would be really bad without Tyler Mahle.
Here we go.
Not be anywhere near.
Yeah, this is what we're going to say next year when Nick Castellanos signs with someone else and Andrew McCutcheon's playing in the outfield for the Reds, and we all cry.
Why would you go there? Why? All right, 57 is how many extra base hits Votto has this year. So what did I say, 80, 84? Is that what I said?
84, yeah.
So yeah, he's going to break that. That's going to be sweet.
Nice.
He might break bench this year. He only needs 10 in 10 games. I mean, that's
the way he's been. Yeah. I'm looking right now at the free agents for next year, like the top ones. Not a great class. Great class. Like Greinke, Verlander, Scherzer, JD Martinez, Cueto. Cueto's not coming back. People don't even start it.
You talking just pitching not being great?
Yeah, pitching's not too hot. And like hitting wise, like Arenado's technically a free agent, but I imagine the Cardinals will sign him back. Chris Bryant, I'm sure is going to get some big money somewhere.
They're all going back to Chicago, those guys. They got their prospects, and then they're all going to go back.
Tell you, depending how things shake out, would not hate Marcus Stroman pitching for the Reds.
We don't need pitchers.
Said how things shake out, Nick.
Okay.
Listen to the conversation.
Yeah, sure. I guess if you could sign him and then trade one of your starters. I mean, yeah, that's a good way to instead of trying to sign a position player, maybe trade for a position player, trade a pitcher, use that, whatever.
Well, it's been a long time since the Reds could deal from a position of strength. So
Yeah.
if they have a bunch of guys and they don't necessarily need to move them, but could move them, that'd be a great position to be in.
We thought we were gonna be that way with the outfield, and we saw how that went. So
Never bank on it.
yeah.
What
God,
else you got?
I
Wow.
don't know. Will Nick Senzel be a Red next year? I highly doubt it. Does anyone else feel like he will? be?
No, you
No,
will not.
no, he needs a change of scenery trade more than anybody has needed a change of scenery trade in a long, long time.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm curious what his value is at this point.
Much.
I have no idea what his value's at.
I know.
I mean, I think someone would give up something for him. I mean, he's a guy with a lot of upside, can play multiple positions.
He'd be
There's
like
a
the
lot
guy
of
that you
teams
add on
that
with one of the starting pitchers. Like, okay, you want Castillo and Senzel, then we're gonna get something back nice.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he'd be a great second piece with someone else.
Yeah.
And maybe if the Reds are looking for a trade for a big bat, maybe like the Marte that we've talked about, maybe it's Senzel plus one of your higher end prospects, and that kind of sweetens it. I don't know.
Yeah. Otherwise, it
Buxton
has to
gonna
be
be-
kind of like otherwise it has to be like the Hoffman Bob Steve trade. You're kind of looking at a couple guys that both needed a change of scenery, and here we're just
Yeah.
going to flip them and see what happens.
Yeah, I know. I say this, and then I say, well, man, Chris Taylor would really fit in. Who like Nick Senzel profiles as is like a Chris Taylor type player. That's you have, and he's cost controlled. So I don't know. It feels like he needs a change of scenery. I don't know. Don't give him away.
Right.
Thank God for Jonathan India. That's all I have to say.
Dude.
You never know.
Absolutely.
You never know. And that's what with Green and Lodolo. It's probably more likely than not that one of them turn out to be, a good quality major league starter, and the other one probably doesn't. So we really should try to go in with those expectations. I know it's hard because we look at those guys and they are super talented, but the likelihood of the Reds
Having two aces.
striking goal with both of them is not super high. Maybe they'll be the Woodruff and Burns. Let's hope,
Yeah.
But that's more the exception of the rule. So I would tamper expectations, especially in 2022 with those two.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, so I think really we've kind of touched on a whole lot of things. Did we get any questions at all from the socials this week?
We just got a yo, and then we got a question about who we're rooting for in the postseason. I kind of want to save that. Number one, I'm not ready to go there.
I think I already said mine, but yeah.
I'm not ready to go there, and we can do that, kind of go through it a little more when we get closer.
Cool.
Steve, I guess we can ask you who are you
I'll be for whoever is in the World Series from the American League. I just don't have it in me to root for the National League if it's not the Reds. So, too much in-season hatred builds up, I guess, for me. But I thought the White Sox was an interesting pick. As far as the National League goes, looking at it, whoever ultimately wins the West, Giants, Dodgers, either one of those teams are going to be very, very, very difficult to beat outside of a one-game series. So the Dodgers are in the wild card. That's probably the only chance you've got to get them. The rest of the way, it's gonna be one of those two guys. I think Dodgers, Giants.
I'm rooting against the Brewers after the garbage they pulled the last 3 days.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Go Atlanta.
Craig Counsell will not be getting Christmas cards from Late Night Reds Talk Live.
Nope. Disgraceful.
Well, Steve, before we do wrap this up, man, first off, I want to say thanks for joining us. Really enjoy having you. But for those who haven't listened, and if you haven't, you're really missing out. Tell the world about the Reds Alert podcast and where they can find you.
All right. Well, it's pretty much everywhere you can get a podcast. You can follow me on social media at @Offenbaker. That's my handle. And the podcast is at Reds Alert Pod. We're kind of quirky in that we are based out in Hawaii. So, we're in the Pacific time zone, riding the waves and enjoying the sunshine, 365 days a year. I was born in Ohio, lifelong Reds fan. So I'm sitting out in the ocean, talking about the Reds and and hoping to engage as many people as possible in conversation. So come check us out. I love to get feedback. I love the comments and the questions. I love the social media stuff. So come give us a find and talk some baseball with us.
I love it. Well, man, it was definitely awesome to have you on for the first time. And it will definitely, as we're putting our off-season plans together, we'll definitely make sure we get you on here a few times as well. But we're going to go and wrap up this week's edition of Late Night Reds Talk Live. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in and hanging out with us. I know we have one more week of regular season baseball that we're excited to come back and talk about. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, 5-star reviews mean so much to us. Take it easy, everybody.
Go Reds.
See you.